Guys, welcome. We are back. I won't even attempt to know the number of this sound design hangout. I actually, if you're watching this, then that means the previous two tutorials, not tutorials, although I guess they kind of are. I will be making more straightforward tutorials, not just sound design hangouts. I'm just doing this because it's fun. It helps you guys. I'm getting better at Ableton, getting better at teaching how I like to talk about things. And I do anticipate releasing a bunch of like straightforward tutorials that are like how to do blah, blah, blah in Ableton. Oh, and I'm back on video. Yeah, I kind of wanted, I kind of wanted to see what it was like being off video for a little bit. And to be honest, I actually think the broadcast, the production, if you will, might actually be better with me not on video, but you can let me know your thoughts below. If you think it's better with me on video, off video, obviously watch some of the ones where I'm not on video, which is I think like the last 3 or 4, to know if that's better or not. I don't know if maybe I teach better or if it's less stimulus on the screen to not have to see me talking or whatever, and maybe when I am not looking at the camera as much, maybe I'm more into Ableton. So just had a feeling, thought I'd come on here and be back on video and do a new sound design hangout. And today's gonna be a little bit of a hodgepodge of a bit of different things that have sort of just come to me. You know, I'm like, what if I did that and that? And this like comes to me while I'm like sitting down doing nothing, you know, like literally just enters my brain. And I'm like, oh, you know, that would be a good idea of something that you should talk about and do, because you haven't really done it a lot. And I think it might provide perspective, especially for a lot of you guys that have been watching a lot of these. You know, what I'm going to go over today is going to be a little bit different. So one thing that we're going to get into, and I'm not going to get into it right away, but I just want to like let you know we're going to be doing this later because I want to jump into simpler really quick. And in fact, I might as well just drop a simpler on here. We did go over simpler and sampler 2 SDHOs ago, or maybe 3. And simpler it's the sampling device in Ableton, other than sampler, that I said it's kind of more performative, and then I sort of backtracked and I was like, well, that's not really what I mean. Well, I figured I should explain that more, because simpler allows you to do things, especially every producer, you know, that's using a DAW is gonna have a certain way, a technique that they sort of have like a producer, like a strategy or like a technique that they do. So maybe someone is just always playing on their MIDI keyboard, and that forms the backbone of like everything they make. Or someone is just always drawing in by hand with the pencil tool, you know, notes. Or maybe someone literally all they do is work with samples. And to be honest with you, if you are someone who, for the most part, is always using samples, in that case, unless you're literally just throwing them into audio tracks, if you're going to be working in the MIDI realm, you're going to be putting those samples into a sampling device. Now, if you're using Ableton and you do what we do on this channel, which is we use only Ableton devices for the most part, because we know that we don't need anything else. That's kind of one of the mottos, one of the mantras on this channel. Yeah, so you would want to use, if you were mostly like a sample producer, you would want to use simpler because it allows you to do things that you can't really do in sampler. Now, you might say, well, then why would I want to use the sampler? Where sampler is when you're really trying to create interesting, unique sounds. You're trying to take those samples and really push them and put them through all of the different envelopes and modulation, and you're really trying to get deep into sound design. But when you're really just trying to use samples and use them in a way that allows you to like create, simpler is the preferred one to go to. So I wanted to get briefly into simpler. So I'm going to go to samples here, and that's where you're going to find samples. There was this weird sample I found that I thought would be really good to go over. I can't remember what it was. It was this weird sample. I don't know if I'll even be able to find it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag this, and this is a sample. I think this is actually a piece of audio that I bounced this down to audio. This was from some synthesizer, and so now I've got it as a piece of audio. So we've got these. So what I really want to go over is we've got classic, short, and slice. By the way, this SDHO, we're going to jump around, but I wanted to just get super duper brief in case any of you were thinking this or wondering this. It popped into my head out of nowhere. So if it did, that means we're all connected. You know that we're all, everything on the planet, the cosmos, everything's all connected. So I'm in classic. There's one shot and there's slice. And I would hopefully, with just this one sample, which I'm going to make sure I'm record enabled, and I'm going to play C3, which plays this back at default pitch. And I'm going to hold it down, and here's what we have. Now, when I'm in classic mode, that's when you want to use sampler, or you want to use simpler, to really be able to do a lot of sound design type stuff. You know what I mean? So you're going to get access to more features, and probably you might stay on classic most of the time. Now, one thing I want to let you know is if you click a note and just tap it, hear that? Now, of course, when you're in a sampler, you can transpose the sample up, you know, you can you transpose it up and down the keyboard. Got it. So you might say, okay, why is it playing like that? Well, if you hit a note, okay, but if you hold it down, so that's something. If you were like, well, hey, I want to get, I want like, a lot of times people say, oh, I want one shots. You know, I want to have my like beat group. I want to have like my MIDI pad controller, and I want to be like finger drumming and hitting those big pads. Especially like if you like hitting them pads, then you might want to go into one shot. So now one shot, when I tap it, it plays. So you get that sort of like, you know, like kind of like that guy who's or gal who's got like, you know, the pad controller and is like, you know, like hitting samples and stuff. I'm gonna go to MIDI effects really quick and drop a pitch and shift down arrow, take it down. So this would be like if you wanted to be going like this, like that's, I'm trying. You know what I mean? But if I were to do that in classic mode, now you might be like, oh, that kind of sucks. Well, what do we know? If you've got a long sample, you can basically do the same thing. Now, going back to one shot, you've got these fade-ins, fade-outs. It's less complex as over here. I don't know if you have access to the filter envelope. No, you still do. So you could go back into classic and just jack the release up all the way, and now. Now, when I'm hitting all of those buttons, it's playing lots of different voices. So in one shot, I believe it's only playing one voice at a time. That's kind of the point, because you don't want like a million, so it chokes them off. So if I play, now I'm back on one shot. Hear how I'm playing it each time? Like each time I trigger a new note, it kind of like cuts the old one off. So basically, yeah, if you want to hack classic, you would just jack release up, but you would come to voices and you would switch it down to 1. But right now I have 6, so I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna hit a bunch of notes. You're gonna hear how they're gonna keep ringing and overlap each other, but you can only have up to 6 playing at once, because this is what voices says, and then it's chaos. Did somebody say chaos? Smash a like. Chaos Lady is in the podcast. Chaos Lady is in the building. Smash a like if you like her. Okay. I love chaos. Okay. I also like simpler. All right. So let's go back to classic now. Okay. Now, remember I said you would go to voices. You would go to 1. So just like short, one shot. Go back. Whoa. So that's cool. So there you go. Now, what about slice mode? Well, slice mode is allowing us, and I'm going to take down this sensitivity, is to allow us to play different parts in the sample. Now, if you're playing a note and you're not getting anything, it's because I believe this is triggering at C1, so we might want to take this down. So it allows us to like slice something up and then like ooh, I'm liking this, to be honest with you. So yeah, and then sampler or simpler, if you go into controls here, you're gonna have your filter. You can then put a filter envelope. The amount is up here. Now, cool, now I just like gave an envelope to these pieces. Now if I turn filter off, ready? I'm getting this. But filter on. So you're just giving it, you're like shaping it now. Go into the frequency and take it down, filter. Let's beef it up with some filter drive. Let's get some of this LFO. Take it off retrig, put it on pan. Now it's going around the stereo spectrum. Put it on pretty cool. You can set velocity if you want, but unless you're playing with velocity, it won't matter. Play with the envelope. Again, nothing will happen unless you put an amount up here. Let's give it some release. Too much filter drives hurt my ears. Too much resonance too, I believe. Do a little bit to pitch. I don't have a lot of good luck with the knowing exactly what the random one's going to do. So yeah, fun. We just did simpler for a little bit, guys. Very, very fun. One other quick thing. So you know how I went back to sine wave here? Because I know what a 1.5 hertz sine wave is going to do when it influences these things. Too much pitch, just a little on pitch, little on volume. Let's see here. So one thing you can do, just to show you, to kind of get, because I like when I have like a sine wave as my LFO modulating these things, but I also like to get a little bit of variety, like that jitter. So like you can literally just click map and then map this hertz. In fact, I'm actually going to come and go on to classic. Sounds, because it's pitched down so low. But I don't want this to go up that high. I want to like bring it down so I can sort of control it. So now this is like just like a cool way to like give some like jitter to there, if that's what you wanted to do. So that was really cool. By the way, before we leave, this slice mode, it can be very convenient when you have like a drum break. So I'm gonna, oh, this is hurting my ears. If you get like a drum break, there's a drum loop. Here we go. So here we got this drum loop. You can slice it by beats. So if I want to like warp this thing, you have warping, which you don't have in the other one, in sampler. So you've got this warp mode. If you're going to be warping, you probably might want to do beats. Make sure you have it on beats. You want to figure out where C3 is so you can play the first sample. I'm going to actually delete simpler, come back in here, throw simpler down, get a nice fresh simpler, go into slice mode because we know what we want. Go back to samples and let's drag that drum loop back in. I'm going to give it a little bit of fade out because I want to fade out some of that like tambourine sound that's on top of it. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let's play with the transpose. Never really sounds good when you transpose it down. A more effective way if you really want to shape it is to get the shaper device. Not shaper, shifter. Shifter. Now before, you never had pitch. So let's take it down. It's supposed to do a better job of shifting it down, but I found it really isn't doing a good job of shifting it down because it almost sounds like you're getting two sounds. Maybe not. I don't know. It just doesn't sound good to me. Now, now this was actually new. So when Shifter got created, it's really just adding this pitch mode. It used to be on frequency, and that actually allows you to shift the pitch down a little bit if you wanted. Not coarse fine tune. Nah, doesn't sound good either. But I just wanted to show you that if you wanted to play around with Shaper or Shifter, now you can. So this would be a good way to like, you know, just like be like, oh, here's a break, and now all you had to do was just throw it in, click, if you want to take it down. So like that would probably be another way you would want to maybe use, what's it called? You might want to slice by beat, so you can play it by the eighth notes. You know, and then you can come into here. Okay, cool. Okay, so now let's play the clip. Where's the hi-hat? So yeah, you can do that. Draw in a bunch of stuff. That's fun. That's fun. But we got to move on here. So yeah, I just wanted to go over that because I felt that was probably a good thing to like jump into. So what are we doing next? Well, there's something I don't think I've really covered on here that like you need to know about, especially if you're not so good with music theory. And this is actually something that I really haven't covered because remember I said there's a lot of different ways that you might produce music in Ableton. Well, one of them is people who literally open up a MIDI clip like this and they just start drawing in notes. You know? And it's kind of a tough way to produce because you either have to like really know like what sounds good. You know what I mean? You have to, you know, maybe change up some of the grids down here. You really have to like now you really have to like know kind of what you're doing. Okay, so we're gonna start in C here, and it's kind of hard to know even if you know music theory. So for instance, you're like, okay, well, 1, 2, 3. You know, I want to hit this first note and then go up to the minor third. And a minor third is 3 notes up from the tonic, which is C. So this would be up 1 note, 2, 3. So that's going to be, you know what I mean? And then okay, this one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to go down 5. That's going to go to the perfect fifth. So even if you know that, you can get lost in these weeds. So what we can do is right over here, if we enact scale. So we're going to keep it in C because we want to be in C. And then let's lock it to, well, we like Dorian here. So, okay, cool. So basically now, wow, all of my notes fit. And yeah, you can just do this. And let's push play. Oh, well, we probably need to have something. What should we do? Let's do wavetable. Yeah, we love wavetable. I swear my marriage was on the rocks, and then I got wavetable, and everything was all good. Thank you, wavetable. Wow, this actually sounds kind of good. By the way, if you didn't know, touching this button would mute it. Now you know. So yeah, the scale mode, very, very important. I'm just going to click stop because it's giving someone anxiety here. Maybe that's just me. So here's the thing I wanted to really show you. So a big thing on this channel is teaching sound design. You know, I mean, yes, I can teach you how to do anything in Ableton because I didn't just learn Ableton to produce the way I wanted to produce. I wanted to literally know every single thing. Not learn every single thing because I'm a perfectionist. Believe you me, I am not a perfectionist. I'm not running around trying to get things done. In fact, I'm walking around, meditating around, trying to figure out how to not do anything. But why is the person who I am, whether it's Ableton Live, music production, sound design, or if it's in Blender, 3D computer graphics, CGI, art stuff, why do I want to just learn every nook and cranny? No, it's not because I'm a perfectionist. I'm not at all. I don't want to be a perfectionist ever. I don't think perfectionists sleep a lot at night. I need my sleep. Smash a like if you love your sleep and you do a lot of sleeping. But I wanted to know. So part of the reason why I got so excited about learning Ableton is because I was like, what if it's possible that some young boy, what if it's possible that some wonderful human being or extraterrestrial was like, what if I knew every nook and cranny of this super complex, the most state-of-the-art electronic digital music audio workstation? If I knew all of it, I also knew music theory. I even played an instrument to reduce the time it takes to get the notes down. I don't have to draw these MIDI clips and tweak the note. Oh, this one doesn't sound good, so I need to, okay, maybe it sounds good there. Oh, maybe it's there. And you keep replaying the dumb loop. I realized that was not going to work. So that's why I was like, oh, I got to make sure I know how to, one of the things I learned, I know I'm getting scatterbrained right now, but it's because an idea came in and I'm like, oh, I've got to share that with them because it's just a powerful idea. That's when I started learning how to play the keys. That's when I got a MIDI keyboard because I was like, I found when I would work on Ableton, I was trying to download ideas from the infinite cosmic universal mind and get them into Ableton so I could then build something around it. I found out that, how do you build a good song? Well, it starts with the first thing you do. So, and if that first thing you do sounds good, everything that builds off it is going to sound good. So if I have a really good drum pattern, I'm like, I love that drum pattern, then everything I build off it's going to sound good. If I lay down some moody chords and I'm like, yeah, I love those chords. I love the way they sound. I used a synthesizer preset that I dialed up, then I know if I add drums, it's going to sound good. If I've got those chords, if I then add melody, it's going to sound good. So that's something that I learned, and I would be tweaking these MIDI clips going into the draw mode, which you can activate and deactivate with B, and I would be doing this and adding one up here, and then I would play it, and be like, okay, does that make it? Okay, what if I put something here? And I would realize that I would have a thing in my head, and then sometimes something would mess up, or I'd be like, oh, I don't like the way this sounds, it's just a sine wave, and then I would lose the idea. But you can definitely produce in this way, and I want to show you another way that you can do modulation, which it's no surprise, it's clip modulation. You're basically automating or modulating, and you're modulating these parameters, and you're doing it in here, not in this one, but on this one right here. So you will, with the pen tool, draw things on. So right now this is, we'll go to something very easy, the mixer panel, okay? No, not mixer. Clip. Where's clip? Clip. MIDI control. So we did this a bit. We did this a bit when we were doing the risers stuff that we did on here. So I'm going to. So right now we've got. I'm going to go to mixer, track volume. So it's as simple as drawing in here, and it'll be 0 volume, or it'll be 0 dB right here. This will take it down, and you'll see it move, right? So that's another way to modulate. That's another way to modulate. Now you would say, well, weren't we so you're like, well, we're modulating the volume right now. Pen tool. I'm going to clear the envelope just by right-clicking, clear envelope. Well, it's not popping up because I already cleared the envelope. But so we were doing that with the track volume. You can do it to track pan. Speaker on and off is just, muting the track. And that's just volume automation. Now, you might say, well, I thought we were doing the modulation with these velocities down here. And yes, you can. Yes, you can. And you'll get that same sound. But the reason when you would rather do clip modulation is when you want to automate more interesting parameters. So let's push Shift-Tab and get back into the device view. And I'm going to get a different wavetable here. And wavetable is the perfect device for this. So right now we just have a sine wave, right? So we want to be looking over here in our wave pool. And let's push play. I'm going to mute it. I'm going to go into audio effects and drop a spectrum on here. So right now, this sine wave is firing off right here. Now, don't think that it's playing a bunch of different pitches, okay? It's playing a bunch of different pitches. Click this triangle to make it go up and go away. So you're hearing all these different pitches. Now, look what happens when I select a different wavetable. See, now I got all these... And we can take these down, filter. So here's what I want to do, is I want to use modulation to when I hit a different note, rather than like, so listen to this, and I'm going to give it a little bit more I'm going to open up the filter a little more. Now, it's the same note, just different harmonics when I move this. But what if I'm playing some notes, and some of them are brighter, or some of them are in different positions than others? That's what I want. That's what I want to get. And I'm actually going to come into envelope 2, and I'm going to assign that to the frequency. So I'm going to click this frequency to make sure it shows up here, and I'm going to give envelope 2. And I'm going to adjust this envelope. Play at the release. So envelope 2, we just routed it to the filter frequency. That's how it works. The amplifier, you don't have to route anything. The amplifier envelope, which is volume, that's just always on. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a sub. Good. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to modulate this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push Shift-Tab. I'm going to make sure I'm in here, and I want to make sure I'm on wavetable. Now, before we were on MIDI control, we were able to, we weren't on, by the way, MIDI control is when you want to modulate pitch bend. So, like, I'm going to play this and just show you what that sound is like. And if you're wondering, you adjust the grid resolution. I'm keeping it on 16th notes because I want to, like, make sure when I go into pen tool, I can, like, lock it in like this. So right now, everything's playing a default pitch, okay? So if I click back over here, these are my other notes. So right now I'm modulating pitch. So let's have the second one jump up in pitch. So it's modulating the pitch. Doesn't sound good, but that's not why. What I want to do is I want to come into wavetable, and I want to do oscillator 1 wave position. okay? And this shows you all things you can map. I believe you can map a lot more here. You just have to do like show modulation, but I want oscillator 1 wave position. So let's click play and let's start drawing in. See, hear that? Sounds better up here. Shift tab. Now look, see, it's modulating that. Let's do the frequency. Even though it's, well, no, we already have modulation on the frequency. Let's just add the LFO to the resonance. It's not changing down here, but you can see it changing up here. Let's add a delay. I'm going to take some of these. Put on mono, put some glide. Some delay. Let's get that old drum loop. I don't think that's... Kind of interesting, right? Drums didn't really sound that good. I'm just playing. It's kind of cool. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Doesn't it? LFO1. I feel like LFO1, if I give it an attack, have it fade in a little bit more. Rather than, like, let it fade in. That, like, woo. Let's give it a second filter, take it off serial, put it on parallel, and I want to get a notch filter. So now we added that to the mix. Let's put a filter drive on it as well. And let's go into LFO2. Let's take it off retrig, give it a slower rate, and then we go into the matrix. Sometimes what you'll find is you won't find what you want to modulate, so you have to click it. So now we got filter to frequency, and let's assign some of LFO2. Maybe that's too much. By the way, the reason why we took it off serial is because serial didn't let it pass over this way. So parallel means like treat them both as like individual ones. So anyways, it's too fast. And it's actually moving I need to take this amount down. Kind of annoying. I really just wanted to be like, listen, that sort of modulation that you get, it can give you very interesting stuff. Now, if you don't see it, it's because you have to go click that. So yeah, you can basically modulate that to anything, and that's something I'm going to be doing a lot more of because I don't really ever do clip modulation, and you can basically just get so many crazy, unique results that like I don't do because for the most part, you know, if I'm working like real melodic, like, you know what I mean? Like I've got lots of different notes, right? Like I have a synthesizer preset that I've made. I've got my MIDI keyboard and I'm playing in my own pattern. Now, when I'm playing in my own pattern, I'm hitting notes, I'm creating melodies because I deliberately want it to sound that way. So for me to then take those notes, go in and do crazy modulations, well, yeah, that could do something interesting. It'll probably change the feel of what I would have. In fact, I would rather have parameters mapped to knobs and then be playing and then tweaking the knobs to get those crazy effects. But like this is something you would do more when you're like when you're more of the producer who's drawing in MIDI notes. And if you can do that, all power to you. Like apparently like Skrillex, he just draws in MIDI notes, or at least he did. That was like how he made all of his music. And back when like I was learning this like 10 years ago, and oh god, if there was a Skrillex article about sound design, you had to go watch it. You know what I mean? And so like yeah, if that's the kind of producer you are, but at the same time, you know, so it allows you to, even if like you're not like, you know, going in and you're like making little adjustments to like, okay, we're gonna move the we're going to move these slightly off the grid to get some variety. You can really get crazy with the modulation. So even if everything is straight on the grid, you know, you can still get a very dynamic thing. So like if you produce this way, you would want to do a lot of these modulations. But for me, you know, I'm trying to be like, what sort of things, what sort of tools and techniques do I have access to that I don't use a lot that give you incredibly unique results? So like the fact, literally, I just got out of the shower and I was like walking around my room. I was like, you know, just putting on clothes, and I'm like, and I'm like, you know, I'm really missing out a lot, because when I do modulation, it's more or less like in the timeline view, because I need something to like change over time, or I want something to fade in at a certain point, or I want to, you know, some sort of effect to happen at a certain point on the timeline. You know, when you're like arranging a track, that's why they call it the arrangement page, because this is where you go to throw your stuff on the timeline and make stuff. But this is where you're kind of going to really just play around with your stuff. This is the session view. And so, I'm going to do a lot more of this, because the more you do it, the more creative stuff. I mean, if you, let's say if we took this and did Command D, and then in this one, we just say, I don't know, go into here and go clear envelope, listen to the difference. Ready? And another thing, if you're like, oh, I don't even like how this sounds, just go in here and change it. Like, that's pretty cool. Convolution Reverb Pro takes a long time to load. So that's it, guys. Hope you learned something. I felt like that's something we needed to go over because, with sampler, I'm going to give you the sampling goods with sampler, the sound synthesis with sampler, but there's a lot of other people that want to really know, well, then why would I ever want to use simpler? And sometimes you have to use simpler. Like if you get like a lower level, a lower tier version of Ableton, you're going to basically just get a bunch of samples and you're going to have simpler. And there's things you would do in that you couldn't really do with sampler. So to each their own, they each have their own thing. I use sampler more because when I use sampler, I'm trying to get like deep, heavy into the weeds with like sound synthesis capabilities. And obviously it's the more robust one, so that's what I used. I wanted to get into clip modulation here because, depending on how you work, that's like really important. And then as I wanted to also show you this scale mode. So like, why would you not have that on? And that came with Ableton Live 11. So great, because rather than having to like count up and make sure you're in the right thing. Now someone might be like, well, I just want to go to MIDI effects and drop a scale. Don't you know what I'm saying? And I'll be like, well, yeah, but like, there's just different ways. There's many ways to make an omelet. I was about to say many ways to skin a cat, because like that's the term that's most used, but that's just a gross, violent, aggressive analogy. And we're moving into the golden age. Our heart chakras are opening up. We're living through the heart. We are moving out of consciousness where you're living in the mind to living in the heart. You're in the present moment. Things are feeling good. You're feeling your connection to all of humankind, to the planet, to the cosmos. If you loved it, smash a like. I thought this stuff was great, helping you stay in scale. Talking about clip modulation, which is so powerful. We almost never do it. Smash a like for that as well. And then also getting into that wonderful, wonderful device, Wavetable, and doing the clip modulation. We'll be back soon. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care of yourself out there. Good. Are you just gonna lay on a big pile of blankies all day, Chunky? Shouldn't you be out finding a job, Chunky? I heard you applied for a job at the Doggy Burger. How's that going? You think you're gonna work there, or you want to just stay here and lay on the blankies all day and eat a bunch of foodie? Oh, he's so cute. Now, does that cute little boy want some kiwi? Does that cute little boy want some kiwi? See, is he gonna do the yawn? Good boy, let's get Chunky some kiwi.